Hey guys, today I got with us Brian Chapman from Chapman Insurance and a friend of mine, and I really want to bring him on because one, he's quite handsome and pretty famous, around town now. He's on 60 Minutes, dude. Congrats, neat.
Thanks, man. Yeah, Bill Whitaker is a cool guy, man. I got to sit down with him. That was fun.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something. His interview style is going to be way better than mine because you've been spoiled, I'm sure.
I don't know, man. I don't know. He asked a lot of gotcha questions.
Did he?
Of course.
Oh, we'll have to hear about. I hear about that. We'll do a behind the scenes 60 Minutes later.
Let's do it.
But so I want to bring you on, man, because there's, you and I and probably most people watching involved in Southwest Florida. We've watched, hold on. Sorry, one second. We got decimated by Hurricane Ian here.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things we're hearing about, especially in my side of the business, and I know your side, is insurance. Like, what are they going to cover? A private adjuster versus public. What do I claim? What do I not? What is flood? All this stuff. And so I kind of want to open it up. If you are watching this, you have questions, put them in the chat, or not the chat, but just comment, and we'll have Brian answer them. If not, your boy has questions here for him, which is started. But Brian, I know you're experienced in this, so you're going to have a lot to add to it as well that I won't even think about. So, let's start jamming, man, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you have anything right off the top though that you want to kind of like that needs to get said? And remember, got a lot of realtors out there that'll see it, but there's a ton of homeowners in our area that are going to be watching this and tuning in to get tips.
I mean, I think first and foremost, not even really talking about like what's this cover and what's that cover, but if you have damage to your house or you see some damage to your house, my recommendation is to go ahead and file a claim, because what you see is not the entire story. You're just seeing a few components of it. And standing on the ground, Grandma Ethel she's not a roofer, so she sees, I'm only missing 2 shingles. Well, that's what you see from the ground. And so I think it's very important that you don't delay the start of that process and go ahead and get a claim going. People ask me all the time, is that going to penalize me? And whenever we have a catastrophic event like this that impacts a large area, there really isn't a penalty per se. It's not like your premium's going to go up because you had a catastrophic claim, or you're going to get canceled just because you filed a claim. So that fear of like, well, I don't think it's that much, that needs to be put away on the shelf, and go ahead and file the claim and have an adjuster come out.
Okay, so there's 2 things in there that I want to dive into that you just brought up. And we may bounce around a little bit here, but I just went through this yesterday. We had to make a claim on our house, and it's funny, man. And I'm sure people watching this understand that went through this. It's like on a normal day, I had a lot of damage to my house,
Right.
But like compared to everyone else, it was minute. And so I've been hearing that from a lot of people though. They're like, well, it's not that much damage, so like, why would I make a claim on it? And what I learned yesterday with that adjuster that came from the insurance company, and it was really enlightening. And we got a couple of things to talk about on that, because you gave me some really good tips on that. And a couple of things. One, Brian told me that when you meet with an adjuster, before you do, go through, get a flashlight out, get your notepad out, and examine your entire house, right? The best you can. That's what you told me?
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. I mean, look for things that you would never, ever on a normal day look for, because what you're talking about is right. Under a normal day, you drive up to your house, there's nothing, there's nothing that's happened. But under Ian, it's like, okay, well, it may not be Sanibel or Fort Myers Beach bad, in Cape Coral or Fort Myers, but there's still damage.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's almost like I see people having, I don't know if it's survivor's guilt. They're
right. Yeah.
They don't even want to talk about the damage they had to their house when they really had damage. It's just not as bad as others that we see and know.
Right. Yeah. But you still have damage. And that's the part. The reason why you need to do it is because just because it doesn't look bad, or you think it's not that bad and you ignore it, there will be future consequences for that. Right. And you know, the granular loss on shingle roofs or the few shingles that you're missing, you know, 6 months or a year from now could result in potential issues, and better off just to go ahead and start that process now than wait.
Yeah, and to give you just a couple examples from my experience yesterday, it's a 2-story house, and I went through, like you said the night before, flashlight, everything else, and I had like 2 pages of notes. Like,
Right.
hey, what is this? There's a stain here. This looks like a nail popped out of the wall. Was it ever there before? I don't know. And so this adjuster, as he's going through it, great guy, by the way, you guys. I mean, you know, you hear horror stories and stuff. Mine, he was a great dude,
Right.
and we enjoyed it. I mean, enjoyed it. You know, it was a pleasant experience, right? And he was very helpful. But one of the things he said was, he's like, yeah, the 2 things I pointed out where I'm like, this looks like a nail popping out. He says, well, that you have a 2-story house with the amount of wind we sustained from, you know, the east and then the west in my area, 12 hours or whatever it was. He said that can actually move your house, move the 2nd floor to where it does pop off a nail here or
Right.
there. And so all these things he's marking and taking notes of. And it was just fascinating because I don't think I would have brought that stuff up if you didn't give me those tips.
Well, and it's important to bring it up early, because the people that bring that stuff early, and you got to remember these adjusters, probably your adjuster as well, they're not from you, right? Because nobody has resources, no carrier has
Right.
resources for the amount of claims that are happening. So they use third parties. And so these adjusters are coming in from out of state. Now that won't be your adjuster for long, because he's just a field adjuster. And then that information goes to the desk adjuster, but that's the initial adjusting, right? They try to capture everything. And if you can get everything out there, it will help you later on so many levels with pictures and notes that adjuster is taking. And that's why you want to do that.
Yeah, and like again, man, shout out because that was a huge help. And this guy was like, yeah, it's going to the public adjuster, and then goes to, or not public, but it goes from him to
The
the
desk
desk
adjuster.
adjuster.
Yeah.
And then 5 to 8 business days, they get back with me, you know.
Right.
So, but again, to repeat for you, even if these people think they have a small claim or a small limited damage, you still suggest that they make a claim?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's not going to hurt them. So it can only help them. And I recommend that they do it.
But a couple questions to that. So when you make a claim, if like I have someone in my office that I know of that has missing some shingles and a few other small things, and they're like, well, we're just going to fix it on our own. And I was telling them, hey, make a claim. And the rebuttal back was, well, if I make a claim, won't that, and even if you don't accept the help, you know, if the insurance company comes back and says, hey, we'll give you this and this, and you're like, nah, I'm good, don't worry about it, it's not worth it. But even if you make that claim and you don't use it, will your insurance premium at your house go up because of that claim?
No, it won't. It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
So now,
because we all think about auto insurance, right? Like I got into
Yeah.
a wreck, I got into it again, you know.
yeah,
now my
but you got to
insurance-
remember, so like thinking about that auto insurance, that's a single isolated event between you and one other person. And whenever you have, you know, like there's a lot of auto claims right now. I'm sure you've seen the tow trucks pulling all the cars out of here
Oh yeah.
from the flood damage, right? So that wasn't one event, right? That wasn't just their event. I mean, that was hundreds, thousands of Southwest Floridians. So when you have that that many people impacted, they can't hold it against you, and they don't. Now it'll show up as a Hurricane Ian claim on your loss report, but it's not penalized, and it doesn't penalize if you sell your house, right? It doesn't stay there in a negative way, like you know,
Like a judgment.
a pipe breaking in your house, and you're the only one that had a pipe break in the middle of the year. And, you know, that stuff kind of hangs around because it's, you know, is the plumbing old? Does the plumbing need to be replaced? But when you look at this from a macro level, it doesn't impact you like you would think. And so that's why I just go ahead and be safe and file a claim.
Yeah, and the worst thing is when you file that claim, what can happen, tell me if I'm wrong, they come back and they say, hey, you had this, and this wrong. Your deductible is whatever, 5,000, and we're going to give you 6, you know?
Right. So the way that would work is, in that exact scenario, is they would say, hey, your total losses are 11,000. we're going to reduce your deductible and then give you 5 or 6. Yeah.
But if the homeowner doesn't accept it, or even if they do, it's not going to have a negative impact on their homeowner's insurance.
Well, certainly should accept that in that case, and it's not going to have a negative impact. No.
A bad example by me, but you know what I mean, though, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we got to fill the lines, man. This ain't 60 minutes. I told you that. I don't prep you.
But yeah, I mean, I just don't want people to be gun shy, or concerned. Now, let's put a little bit of room around this. If you're in a neighborhood and like Babcock Ranch, and their CEO went on and said, "Oh, we lost for a few shingles and a few trees." Okay, maybe they don't need to file a claim, but they also weren't getting. They say they got Cat 4 winds, but were they really getting? 30 miles inland. So maybe the wind wasn't as severe. And so maybe they don't need to file new construction. Maybe they don't need to file a claim. But I'm just saying, if you look at your roof and you see like 4 or 5 missing shingles and your neighbor's roof is gone, there's more there, right? So just kind of use common sense on that.
Yeah.
Because there's some communities in Southwest Florida that we don't maybe consider like beachfront, waterfront, coastal, didn't lose power and didn't use internet. Okay, maybe if you're in those communities, there's 1 or 2 or a handful that need to file a claim, but there might be some that's like, I don't even see a missing shingle. I don't see any water. I didn't get any water inside. Maybe those situations you could say, hey, let's, we can talk about it because you're gonna have your deductible.
Well, and the other thing is with what I wanted to talk about also is the adjuster. Oh wait, before you get an adjuster, we got a couple questions here. Frank, it's being recorded. We'll put it back up for you. Frank Glab, shout out to you. And then we have Luann Collins said, client didn't have FEMA contents, but their home flooded to 5-foot level. Any insight on that for Luann?
Yeah, so the contents on the flood policy, if they did have it, is going to be limited to 100,000. In that case, they're going to need to, obviously salvage what they can. There's, the other stuff is unfortunately is going to be considered a loss, but because that is an uninsured loss, they get kind of a priority with the FEMA grants.
Yeah.
I think it's 39,000. I remember I'm on the insurance side, so if someone didn't buy insurance, it's tough for me to comment on all the other things they can do. But I know there's the $39,000 grant, and then they could do an SBA loan, I think for a couple $100,000. I don't know if they're going to need that much for their personal property, but those outlets are there. On that, my experience, because I have filed SBA loans for my company, be patient. They take time.
Okay, gotcha. Hope that helps, Luann. I had a question about adjusters, because you hear that a lot, right? People are get an adjuster, don't get an adjuster. Give me some insight on that. What should people do with in regards to getting an adjuster?
Well, they should do what you did. Yesterday, you met with your insurance adjuster.
Right.
Okay. When we talk about the bad adjusters, we're talking about the public adjusters. The public adjusters, I don't know if you've noticed any on your Facebook feed, but I've seen a lot of contractors sponsoring. I've seen a lot of public adjusters. I've seen a lot of attorneys, I feel like it's every 3 ads I see or every 2 ads I see, it's one of those guys. And so do what you did, file an insurance claim, meet your insurance adjuster at your house, go through everything with them, let the insurance company gather all that information at the desk level. We call that the desk adjuster. Make an offer to you or offers to you, or you go then and say, I know these things that I'm going to need to repair, so let me go find the contractors to do it. Okay. And then submit those bids over to the insurance company, and then typically they'll pay it. They may push back on something, but in most cases, if it's like, hey, I'm getting a new roof and I'm getting the same shingle roof, they'll pay it, right? Now, do you want to try to be a smart consumer and get 2 or 3 bids? Yes. But if you want to upgrade to a metal roof, that's where, you know, the insurance companies will say, hey, well, we'll pay you for the shingle roof, and then you get and then you can upgrade to a metal roof. But the reason you want to go through that process before you bring in a public adjuster is because when you bring in a public adjuster, it goes into a separate claims category at the insurance companies. And they mark them like natural claim, public adjuster claim, and then there's a third one they call assignment of benefits claim. And they notate it, and they know which ones they are. And the reason they do that is because the public adjuster is typically going to drag out the process. And usually the process does not go as fast. That's my experience. Public adjusters could probably argue that it goes faster and they find more money than all of these things. So, you know, we can have that debate, but it usually takes longer, and they sell it on the premise that they're going to quarterback the situation for you. But like, you had the ability to go through your house with a pencil and paper. That's basically what they would do. And then work with your desk adjuster. The reason I caution on that is because, let's say your adjuster comes back to your house, I'm just using a number, and they say, yeah, you know, we agree it's $75,000 in damage. Go ahead and go get the bids to get all the work done, submit those bids to us, and we'll pay you. If you hire a public adjuster, they take 10% of your claim.
Right.
So, you know, do it the way you did it. Have the insurance adjuster come out. I call that the natural way. Work with your insurance company. If something goes south, you always have the option of a public adjuster.
So, okay. But that was my question to you. So, like, let's just say in that example, you said 75 grand. They come back and say, hey, it's $75,000 we're going to give you. And again, we're just using numbers here, right? And so, like, but I think that number should be 100, right?
In many cases, though, it can go there without a public adjuster. You just have to do the work to get the, you know, like, I'm going to have to fix my pool cage, and here's the bids I'm getting. It's the best I'm getting. I'm going to have to fix my roof. And then the insurance company will make an adjustment.
Okay. Well, yeah, so they come back and say 75,000, and I come back.
Well, they will come back and say, we think it's about 75,000. Right. Like, here's our paperwork on it. Here's our.
And then as a consumer, walk me through this. I have the chance. I'm so glad we're having this conversation, man. I really am. I know there's thousands of people having the same thoughts.
So you're going to okay, you know, they agree that the roof needs to be replaced. Go get 2 or 3 contracts. Don't always take the lowest. Don't always take the highest, right? Find one that you feel comfortable with, and then send that over to the carrier and say, hey, I know you said, because roof costs are going to go up, right?
Yeah.
So I know you said the roof is going to be 22,000. Here, the best bid I'm getting, the one that I feel comfortable with, is 26 or 28. You know, that's where adjustments can be made. You just have to communicate that to the carrier.
But it's basically like they're coming and saying, hey, this is what we think it is, and I say, okay, great. Let me start getting some quotes on these heavy things, and then I go back to them and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing, and then they just adjust. Hopefully, just adjust.
They'll say, give me a couple days. Let me see if I can get this approved.
Yeah.
And in my experience, they can.
Okay.
You know, as long as there's nothing like, you know, shady going on, right? You know, there's always somebody trying to do something sometimes there, but yeah. I mean,
they're like, your single roof's 20 grand. And I'm like, no, it's 150. Here's my 3 quotes from my buddies. Yeah. From Tim Hart Roofing that I just started 3 days ago.
And licensed under another contractor.
Licensed out of Delaware. Oh man, I got a lot of Delaware jokes. I'm gonna stop. So I take that. But when does it? So like, what happens though when people go back and they bring in an attorney or a public adjuster? Like, is that like when it's like, hey, they're not giving me what I think I deserve? Do I bring in an attorney or someone else, or what happens?
Yeah, I think that's when you kind of get to an impasse moment and you're not getting anywhere. But you can also always threaten that, saying, you know, I may need to seek additional counsel because we're not coming to agreement on this, and get them to move on it. You know, and I don't think you're going to have to do that though. You know, the severity down here was so significant that, you know, the insurance companies have a responsibility to make us whole. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's I think what they all intend to do. There will always be a few scenarios, right? But I mean, 95% of the claims, and you can put the statistic down. I mean, 95% of the claims that are being filed right now, however many hundreds of thousands of claims that is, well, someone will have made contact and probably have a field adjuster already reviewed 30 days posting. So that's how quick the industry can move to get, to at least get the initial reports done. From the time payouts start happening and contractor work and that stuff, I mean, that's probably really a 6 to 12 month window. Just about, I mean, the aluminum guys are all strapped, the window guys are all strapped.
Yeah.
But the roofers are strapped. So just getting a bid from them at this point, put it in your file, send it over. Just getting the bid process started, and then when the actual work starts, it's probably like 6 months. I mean, we're on a road to recovery, right?
Yeah. Well, I got a couple more questions here, but there's a few popping in. Frank Glab asked, he said, and if you don't know the answer, it's okay, man. But he said, what about FEMA covering uninsured screen replacements?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I think they consider the property. So what I do know is that they send out their own adjuster, just like an insurance company does. So if you have insurance and the insurance pays, they want to see a copy of that. Okay. And then what they do is they cover above and beyond that. If you don't have insurance, then they send out like an adjuster, like a field adjuster that reviews your loss. And then that's how they build the value of the loan or the grant.
Okay. Hope that answers it, Frank.
Yeah.
I got Luann. Oh, she said, good job, guys. Thank you very much. Nelson Fernandez, here's his question. If the insurance company says 70,000, okay, this is there's math involved here, Brian. Okay.
Okay.
Insurance company says 70,000 and the contractor says 60,000. Will the insurance company lower it to 60K or can we pocket the $10,000?
Yeah, I mean, it does happen, right? Let's say somebody gets their payout in 6 months. Here's the irony in all of this, okay? The insurance company is not a contracting company. It's like a bank doesn't want to own real estate. They don't want their mortgages to default.
Yeah.
The insurance company doesn't, they're not contractors, right? So they have a monetary obligation, a promise to pay you for the damage that you sustained. Now, they won't typically come back behind you and say, hey, did you fix that? That money we paid you, did you fix that? That's not how this works. Okay. Now, there could be a situation where they have an insurable interest. And so they come back and say at the renewal next year or in 2 years, say, hey, we need to see proof that the roof was updated. And if it wasn't, we're going to get off the policy.
Yeah.
But they're not going to come back and say, hey, that check we cut you, for $30,000 on the roof, was the bill really 30,000? Like, we need to double check our file. They're not the IRS. They don't audit like that.
They just want to make sure the work got done on certain things.
Potentially, but in many cases, they don't even follow up. I mean, I put a new roof on my house after Irma, right? Never once did they ever follow up with me. I removed my pool cage and put up a fence. They don't come back and ask, hey, we need to see a picture of the new pool cage. So it doesn't work that way.
Well, and it was a good question, Nelson, my boy Nelson, he works for us. But I kind of thought of it yesterday. Was one of the things the guy mentioned was there's a couple of drywall repairs that have to happen inside my house. And he said that immediately triggers an entire inside paint job.
Sure.
And so like my thought was like, man, do we really, cool, we get the money for it, but like, do I really want to repaint? Do I really want to go?
Well, and they may allow for painting in that room, but then when it cuts into another, because like paints don't match, right? As paints age, they, Sherwin-Williams and Flexbond, all those guys, they change their color patterns, so you can't find the exact match.
I've never thought about that.
Yeah,
that's like when your cell phone changes chargers all the time, right?
It's exactly. No, it's the same thing. Like, I just bought this paint 4 years ago and painted my house. How come I can't find it anymore?
Right.
Oh, well, we changed the pattern. So they'll probably, in a situation like that, maybe paint a room. But then when you get out of that room, you can't tell the difference. But they're not going to just patch paint. They're going to give you the allowance for a full paint job.
Right. Well, hey, I got real quick while we're doing this. If you're watching this right now, share this with someone that's going through insurance issues. Help them out. Right. This is some great information. that, you know, you're seeing, you know, a great resource with Brian. Reach out to him with questions or concerns as well with insurance stuff. I want to bring up a quick plug while we're still talking, maybe people are watching, is there's a program out there called 203H. Brian, I don't know if you know about this. I've been putting a few videos out.
I've heard about it. Yep.
Okay. So if you're a renter or a homeowner and you've been displaced, your house has been destroyed or it's uninhabitable, you have a program, it's 100% financing. You can buy another home anywhere. Okay. It's not just in Southwest Florida. It can be in Florida, it can be in another state, but it's FHA 203H. We can help with that. So just send us a direct message, call my office if you need help with that. I want to make sure I got that plug in so people.
Yeah, no, that's really good, man. I mean, I think that can help a lot of people. Well, let's be honest, we want them to rebuy somewhere down
here. Yeah, man. Yeah, I do. Right. I'm like, damn, don't go anywhere else, man. Stay here. It's great. Right. But like, there's people that, let's be honest, man, I've seen it.
They're one and done, right?
Yeah, they're out, dude. They're heading for the hills somewhere else, you know. And me personally, I'm like, how are you gonna escape nature? Like, where are you going? Floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, you know, the flash flooding, drought, you know, earthquakes, like, have fun.
Snow, ice storm.
Yeah, forget that. Well, I want to make sure I bring up that. So with insurance, is there anything else you want to kind of cover with current market stuff? Because I kind of want to get in like where you think future insurance is going to go.
Yeah, that's fine. We can do that.
Okay. Well, let's get into it. Do you think, what do you think that, because insurance rates already, you know, you guys have already been increasing, and we're seeing mortgage interest rates go through the roof, right? Last couple months, big time. Me, you and Robert have been texting about it. Shout out to Robert if he even watches this. Him and his new Corvette. We're showing your Corvette out here. But the rates, insurance rates are already going up. Flood, homeowners, etc. Like, where do you see next 12, 24 months with insurance for Florida?
Yeah, I mean, so it changes the whole marketplace for us, because right now carriers are still not open yet. We have just a few that are open.
For new policies.
For new policies, right? So they're like kind of in a shell shock moment.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like Robert was when he got his new Corvette. So, you know, insurance companies still haven't gotten through that. There's a few that have kind of leaned in and started to open up a little bit. That will probably take place later this year, maybe like late November, December. There were a lot of cancellations happening right now in our marketplace, a lot of non-renewals. People had a policy and then it gets canceled, right?
Right.
That was put on hold by Governor DeSantis because he's the greatest governor in our lands right now.
Shout out, man. Y'all vote for him in November. And I'm not afraid to say that.
And he extended that to November 27th or 28th, I think. So anything like just my agency probably had 800 policies to cancel between September Ian and November 28th. We have 400 a month basically that are just canceled. We have to just churn them over and rewrite them to another policy. Well, thank God he gave us some breathing room on that so that we don't have to rewrite those. But carriers will start to open back up. But here's the questions. Here's the things that start happening. Are we going to have immediate rate increase? Not necessarily from Ian. We'll probably see the rate from Ian in at least 12 months, maybe 24 months. Okay. That's when we'll see the rate impact from Ian. But we are already seeing a lot of rate increases, as you mentioned, as an industry prior to Ian. And so don't confuse that rate increase with a result of Ian, because most policies are still increasing 30, 35%, regardless of Ian, right? So other questions. Hey, I'm being canceled. I need a new policy. Okay. Well, do you have pre-existing damage? And a lot of Southwest Florida has existing damage, right? So hurry up and get a contractor to do this. Probably not an option right now. And we're going to have a lot of situations where it's going to be very, very difficult to transact real estate or even insure your own house if there's existing damage. And so what are our options? Well, if it's really significant damage, builder's risk, which is basically typically utilized for new construction, but there's a builder's risk program for renovation. So we could put a policy in place for builder's risk, might match up with some of your loan programs. If someone's got to do a full renovation and they need money for that renovation, we could do a builder's risk. And the only catch to it is the home is then only insured for actual cash value, the existing home that was undamaged. So, our ACV, as we call it, actual cash value, which is not replacement cost. So how our lenders going to, view that could be an issue. Or you get the repairs made. That's the other thing. Can you get them made? And certainly an insurance company doesn't like to write something with existing damage. So if they go out and they will inspect it, that's the problem. You think, oh, we'll just sneak it in there. They are going to inspect it. And they go out and see, 30% of the shingles missing. They're going to get off the policy. So
right.
So yeah, I mean, this is a real issue. Not even just an immediate issue, but a future issue, because the homes that sustain no damage might be able to market at higher, sales prices, because the other ones are going to have so much difficulty in getting insurance, the ones that had damage. So I don't know how it's going to go economically, but I know it's not good because, like you mentioned, factoring in the interest rates and now escalating insurance rates, and in addition, difficulty in finding insurance, it's going to be complicated.
Yeah, I'm doing a video later today with you probably Jeff Tamburello, you probably know him.
Yeah.
But one of the topics going to be like, what's the real estate market going to look like? And there's so many just downward pressures on prices at the same time, no inventory, right? Like it's such a odd time for us. But back to insurance. So tune in for that one sometime in the future, by the way, if you're watching. But back to insurance. So like, do you see other carriers? Like I was talking to a guy, Rich, who works with us. He was in insurance for 20 plus years. He said normally what happens is carriers will leave, other ones see it as an opportunity to come in and get some market. Do you see that kind of happening, maybe happening too?
Well, yeah, I would say that's a plan that many have. But a lot of carriers don't want to be in Florida right now, not because of Ian. They just don't want to be in Florida, right? So yes, there will be carriers that come in. They're in the starting blocks, but by the time they roll out their products, their programs, are they going to be competitive? They're a new company. These aren't, this isn't like it's a startup. So there'll be a couple, but you got to remember, looking back prior to Ian, we've had 6 carriers go into liquidation this year in Florida. 6 companies that didn't make it, right? And so the money that's coming in right now that potentially would come in and say, hey, we'll look for market share because it's our time to grow. It's all venture capitalists. It's all hedge fund. It's all, it's not an insurance company. It's not, it's not an insurance company that you think of that's rooted and grounded with history. And so could be, but I don't think that they're going to be able to take a tremendous amount of the market share, because it would take 5 or 6. And as far as I know, there's only about 1 right now sitting there ready to step out. So
go back to your point though about insurance companies not wanting to be in Florida. I mean, I could probably guess, but you tell me why. Like why even before Ian? Like why are they leaving Florida?
We've created a litigation for-profit system here in Florida, unlike other states, and it's compounded by marketing firms, aka law firms. Money falling out of the sky on a billboard or a lotto ticket, that stuff resonates with people because they can't stop seeing it. So and that's just the desire to call. And then on the other side, we've created is a mechanism for them to make a tremendous amount of money in the state of Florida. And so you have this perfect snowball that results in, I shared the statistic on 60 Minutes, but didn't catch airtime. California in 2021 had 900 property insurance claims that were litigated. That's statewide. So what you just had at your house, that's called a property claim. Okay. Florida last year in 2021, without any storms, had over 100,000. We're so far ahead of every other state. I mean, of all the litigated property insurance claims in the nation, we own 80% of them in Florida.
Good
so
Lord.
You have this like perfect snowball of, and the reason why that matters is because if the insurance company says 50,000, okay, and then they, the countering party says 70, and then the insurance company settles at $50,001, it's considered a loss, and they have to pay all of the attorney fees. And sometimes those attorney fees are more than the $50,001, right? And so you've got this litigation for profit mechanism that's just rolling. You've got about 20 law firms in the state that are responsible for about 40% of these claims. It's kind of the pill mills where all the attorneys refer to these pill mills, and then they get a 25% fee. I mean, the trial bar is super powerful, bro. They're the most connected industry in Florida. And, just like if I was a mortgage broker and I sent you a referral, it's something I didn't do, you would send me back a few bucks or maybe work out an agreement. I don't know exactly how your rules are in your industry. We don't really do a lot of that in our industry, but in the law industry, that's very common. And
giving referrals and kickbacks and stuff?
Well, it's not kickbacks, it's referral fees.
Referral fees.
It's not illegal. Like I used to usually think kickback, I think illegal, but
I didn't, when I say kickback, I didn't mean like they're breaking the law.
Yeah.
Referral fee.
I mean, yeah. So, you have us, trust attorney in Fort Myers, right? And he doesn't do property litigation, and he refers it to one of these firms that does the property litigation, and he gets 25% or 10%. I don't know what the numbers are. Everyone's different, but so one of the law firms alone, it's not the one you're thinking of. Okay. They file.
Isn't that wild, dude? Like anyone watching this, like that's the first place they're probably thinking about.
Yeah,
right?
It's not them, but they are on the list of the top 20. But there was one law firm that last year alone, I think they filed like 5,000 property litigation claims in the state of Florida. I mean, you think about that. It's a monster number against insurance companies. So
you get Ronnie D after him. And by the way, with our business, dude, I'll go to jail. Like if you send me a deal and I give you like a $5 Starbucks gift card, like they'll drop the hammer on me, man. That's for sure.
I didn't know if there was a mortgage broker to mortgage broker.
Nah, I mean, within the company, kind of you can do something, but like, no, it's nothing else like that. I mean, realtors can do, that when they refer out.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, I have one last question. And if you think of something else, thanks, Diane. Appreciate saying that. Thanks, Luann. Shout out to Jessica. Yeah, Derek, watch the video. Someone tagged Derek in it, so he's got to watch it. Sorry, Derek, you got to watch all this. But I had another question. What do you think going through this, like, for example, hurricane prep, right? Like, I know the one thing that I whiffed on massively was AM/FM radio. Okay. So completely whiffed on that. Had everything so prepped for everything else. What about insurance though? Like with people going through this, what's the one common running theme? It's like, oh my God, I didn't know about, the content or the flood, or this was excluded. Like what's the kind of the thing in the future that people need to be looking out for that you've seen going over and over again? Or is there something that pops off?
I think the two maybe relatively simple things, and there's probably a list of like 15, so you're asking me two, but
you can give whatever you want.
Well, people not realizing that many of the carriers don't include pool cage or screen coverage, and it has to be added back on. And many clients opted not to add it back on, signed on the dotted line saying, I know I don't have pool cage covered, but then have amnesia when the claim happens. I think the second thing is the special magical wind-driven rain. So just because your sliders weren't damaged, but your sliders let water in because of the wind-driven rain, that is covered under your policy. So people think, well, my slider didn't break or my window didn't break. But you have water stains inside your house. That's wind-driven rain. That is covered. And sometimes, you know, people are like, well, the window probably had to break for me to have coverage. And that's not the case.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, we could go on and on. Like the paint, people don't realize their house, the painting on the exterior of the home. You know, that's insured.
Well, hey, dude, we went pretty long here because and it's been going good. But you have a video right in front of you, man. Top 10 things that people need to make sure they're insured for before a hurricane hits.
After I finish my next 30 calls back, I'll
All right, man. Hey, dude, I appreciate it. Everyone watching, you know, if you got insurance companies, a lot of great local companies out here. Like, man, support these local people like Chapman Insurance that can broker, you know, and have these other carriers out there they can work with. That's why honestly we support here. But Brian, how can they get in touch with you if they have any other questions?
I mean, the best way to start a conversation, our website, cigflorida.com, has our 5 locations listed on there. So cigflorida.com.
cigflorida.com. Cool. Good deal. Well, you guys reach out to him. You got any questions or concerns? Us as a mortgage company, we're always here to help. You got mortgage questions? I talked about that 203H. I have an entire team of loan officers that's here to help. We're licensed in a bunch of different states. I'm not going to list them. I'll bore you to death. But we can. And Brian and I said we want you to still buy here in Southwest Florida, right? But we can help you anywhere basically, except Missouri and Hawaii. That kind of narrows it down for you. Sorry, we can't help you on Maui, but if you had a house that was destroyed, you're renting it or you own it and it's been destroyed, uninhabitable, you got kicked out, whatever it may be, you will qualify. That's in a disaster area, Lee, Collier, Charlotte County, all the way up into the central part of Florida. You'll qualify for 100% financing, FHA 203H. We're happy to help you. It's 100% financing purchase. Call my office, 239-437-4278. We are happy to help. Mr. Chapman, thanks, sir. Appreciate your time, man.
You're the man, dude. Looking forward to Florida, Southwest Florida rebuilding.
Hey, man. And dude, is it not amazing how quick everything's getting rebuilt?
It's coming back.
Wow, dude. What a community, man. Get her done community, dude. Right here, man.
Yeah.
All right, brother. See you, man.
See you, man. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.